Good morning. It's LA's Morning News. I'm Mike Simpson.
And I'm Vicky Moore. Coming up on KNX News 97.1 FM, we're going to talk to Richard Blade. The very famous Richard Blade. He's getting a star on the Walk of Fame today.
And downstairs, it's not Jack FM down there. It's Blade FM today.
Blade FM.
8:15, brought to you by OPO Law. Susie Jessup.
Well, we've had a number of problems on the 605 freeway, but a new one just popped up. This is in Studebaker, northbound 605 at Imperial Highway. It looks like a car might have hit some debris in the roadway, blocking the Imperial off-ramp from the northbound 605. Now, that northbound 605 slow from the 105 to Beverly, where we had this earlier problem that cleared a while ago, and a little further north in Irwindale, southbound side of the 605 at Ramona. They just cleared this car out of the center divider. A car lost its front wheel, and they have to try and sort of drag it over to the right shoulder. I am seeing some slowing from Arrow Highway for that southbound side of the 605. In Southgate, I saw something going on the 710 freeway. This is right at Firestone, southbound 710. Looks like a car hit a pothole there and waiting for a tow truck. They're trying to clear this out of lanes. Northbound side of the 710, that's where we're going to see the commute from the 105 as you make your way up in towards the 5. Your Southern California Toyota dealer's instant eye view of that 405 freeway. Still pretty much the slowing starts at Roscoe. Stay slow to Sunset. And Sepulveda right now is not a good alternate. There was an earlier wreck at Bel Air Crest that did clear. That's all open. But Alex called in and said it was about 15 minutes extra taking Sepulveda Boulevard. That should be clearing up pretty soon. When what you do after an accident is the question. OPO Law is your answer. Award-winning personal injury law firm. People of First Philosophy. Helping thousands of injury victims. Choosing the right lawyer matters. 888-OPO-WINS. OPOLaw.com. SoCal's only reliable traffic reports every 10 minutes on the 5s from the Downey Hyundai 24-hour traffic center.
Still got the clouds into sunshine. We're warmer still, 70s and 80s, and then triple digits for the desert areas today. Coming down a little bit in some of the valleys in the IE, though, at least a few degrees, but still above normal as we get into tomorrow, and then we'll drop a little bit for the weekend. All right, now, 8:17. We're going to talk to the guy who has done just about everything.
This is Richard Blade saying, I'll see you soon.
That's a Japanese donut ad from the 80s featuring Richard Blade. We found that we had to play it. KROQ legend. He was on there for 20 years, hosts of Flashback Lunch on Jack FM. But again, today it's Blade FM because he's getting that star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Richard Blade, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Vicky. How you doing today?
Good, thank you. I mean, come on, a Japanese commercial. It must be nice to be a living legend. And not only that, by all accounts, you're a really nice guy.
Well, thank you very much. Just don't tell the people in Japan I don't eat donuts.
Just a minor fact there, yeah. When people ask you for a story over the years, and they always do, tell me about something. Do you have so many you don't know what to say anymore? Or you just go straight to this one time Michael Jackson stopped me at a party to look through my records?
Actually, he did. And so did Elton John. But no, when people ask me for a story, I say, well, about what? And then if they say, Robert Smith from The Cure, or Simon from Duran, or Terry from Berlin, or did you ever do a movie with, and then I love to tell them the story because it's like living it again. It's flashing back.
I mean, do you find it hard not to name drop?
I like how he says, yes, Michael Jackson did, but also Elton John.
Also Elton John.
Casually. Yeah.
Well, it's just amazing to me because I'm a fanboy. I never take it for granted. And quite often after meeting people or doing a gig with them, or, like Billy Idol called me yesterday because he's going to be speaking at the Star ceremony. And he'd never called me before, so I didn't recognize his number. And I was in my little gym working out, and I picked up the phone. I go, hello, who's this? Thinking it was some crank call. And he goes, Philly. And I, Philly who? He goes, Philly Idol. I went, oh, Billy. I misunderstood. And we had this great call. But after he hung up, I was like, wow, Billy Idol just called me. I mean, I never get used to it.
You said you didn't recognize his number, which made me think, well, whose number do you recognize?
Yeah, who's in your phone?
Do you have like Barbara Streisand on a speed dial or something?
No, I have Martin Gore, Jimmy Kimmel, John Taylor from Duran, Simon, and then a lot of other people, but they're just friends. Dave Wakelin from the English Beat, who a great band, but he's also a great friend. And Dave and I have reached the point where, he doesn't talk about my radio days. I don't talk about his music days unless it comes up. We're too busy talking about, my, ankle hurts because he fell over on stage or something. So it's just kind of like a friendship.
You said Billy Idol's going to be out at the ceremony. You mentioned Jimmy Kimmel. He's going to be there too. Who's giving you that star today?
Well, the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce present it, but then we have 2 guest speakers. But they actually made an exception. They've given me 3. So Jimmy is going to go first because he has to rush off afterwards to do his first run through with the writers. So he's going to go first, and I've got a feeling he's going to roast me from back in the day when he was Jimmy the Sports Guy on KROQ. And then it's going to be Oscar. And Oscar he started a Richard Blade fan club, and he petitioned the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And he was responsible very much for getting my name in there. I didn't even know I was nominated. I got the call out the blue from the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce a couple of years ago. And in fact, that was a number I didn't recognize. And this woman's voice said, "Hey, Richard, are you excited?" And my wife, she was on speaker, and my wife looks at me going, "What on earth is that?" And I said, "Well, why would I be excited?" And she goes, "You just got a star on the Walk of Fame." I was like, "Woo!" And my wife went into orbit and floated around the kitchen a few times. But so Oscar's going to speak second, and then Billy Idol's going to wrap it up. And then I'm going to break my number 1 rule in the world: never follow Billy Idol on stage, because he is the greatest performer ever. You drop the mic, that's Billy Idol. And I've got to follow him. So that's going to be quite something today.
I think you're going to be great. So, I love listening to you tell these stories. And I know that you've written some books. I mean, for people who want to hear more from you, if they're not going to hear it on the air, on the radio streaming, if they want to read, what's the title?
Well, there's my autobiography, which is World in My Eyes, very uncensored. And today I have a new novel coming out, but it's based on a true story. It's called Slapton Sands, and I grew up in the south of England, and we have the greatest respect and love for America there because of the sacrifice the Americans made in World War II. I wasn't born then, but their legacy lives on, and all we knew about was the sacrifice those heroes made training for World War II, because 80 years ago today, they faced the guns in Normandy. And the book I've written, Slapton Sands, is a fictionalized account of a tragedy that happened on April the 28th when the Germans found out about the Americans training there, and in the middle of the night attacked and killed 749 in 1 hour. And not one medal was given out. And not one memorial was put up for 40 years, because initially it was hushed up because D-Day was so close. But it turned out it was a mistake on behalf of the American and the British generals in not protecting their troops that were training. And so it was covered up for 40 years to protect the people at the top. And so I've written it in a novel, because I've also worked in my very first love story between a young California sergeant and a British girl. And it's called Slapton Sands, which is 6 miles from where I grew up. And thankfully now those 749 American heroes are memorialized, and there is an incredible memorial at Slapton Sands for them.
We're going to watch you today out there at the Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony. Richard Blade, thanks so much for talking to us, and have fun, okay?
Thank you, Mike and Vicky. Appreciate it.
Let's check your money now. Steve Potisk.
Hey, well, first-time jobless claims jumping a little high.
Klein and Ally Show.
KROQ listeners, don't forget to listen to your second favorite morning show, Klein and Ally.
I'm going to be eggless.
Stupid man.
106.7 KROQ FM in HD Pasadena, Los Angeles, Orange County. This is the world famous KROQ.
Oh, hell yeah. Welcome to the Prequel. Just after 9 o'clock, we are Klein and Ally Show. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming to hang out. Maybe you're just using us for tickets. That's okay. We'd rather be used than not used at all. I'm Klein. There's Ally.
Morning.
You got DJ Omar Khan on the ones and twos. Jake the Nerd back there.
What's up?
Assistant to the audio sniper. Now has his own hamburger on the menu at Grill-A-Mall. It's called Dill-A-Mall. We'll get instant original first feedback later this hour from people that went by to try that yesterday. In the back room, taking the calls, Vanessa and Postmaster Johnny. 800-520-1067 this hour. In fact, in just a moment, a legend, a KROQ legend, will be honored forever to live upon the sidewalks in the heart of Hollywood. Our very own Richard Blade gets his start today, and he's going to be returning to the airwaves of KROQ in mere moments. But first, let's clear out some lines and say hi to caller 20, which puts us on Erica in Garden Grove. Hello, Erica.
Hi, I'm so happy I won. I've been calling all week.
Hey, look at that. What is the lesson you can take from all of this?
You guys better be the second best favorite talk show host. Sorry, I'm so stunned.
She's so stoned, and if she just commits long enough, Allie, she can win her own tickets.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
How much did you smoke this morning?
About a gram.
Oh, I was going to say a gram and a half. Oh, wow. Good for you.
Save some for the weekend. You will be going
Don't
to...
tell her to save some. Do whatever she wants.
Do whatever you... I'm not a moral compass, I guess.
Yeah.
No Values. You're going. Promote a Fairplex. All the bands will be there. Bad Religion, Social D, Sublime, and more. Hold on 1 second, all right?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
That's someone with great values.
That's Erica right there. We have a treat for everyone right now on our phones. This guy's moments away from being one of the most famous people on the planet. We welcome to KROQ right now as we get into a brand new hour. The return of the great Richard Blade. What's up, Richard?
Did I win? Second best morning show in the world. Did I win? I got tickets for No Values.
You get no tickets at all, but man, think about all of the millions of pairs of tickets you've given out over the years.
Oh, well, Erica can go instead of me then.
Well, you're probably friends with all those bands anyway. You could probably get in no problem, Richard.
I could call up Social D and maybe they would let me in if I gave them like $50.
Are there any bands you haven't slept with, Richard? Because there's a big story that was going around yesterday about you in Berlin.
Oh, well, yeah, Terry and I were definitely an item for about a year and a half. And actually, she can't be at the star ceremony because she's on a cruise in Scandinavia right now. And she made a little video for me, and she's still a sweetheart. But no, that's about the only band I've slept with. I'm trying to think if there was any others. But that's it.
It's great that there's probably
others. You have to
others.
review some of your books and go through it.
If you're in a band and you've slept with Richard Blade, call us now.
Yeah.
We need to get the total number.
Who's going to be there today? Today you're getting your star, and I imagine a lot of your exes and otherwise are going to be there supporting you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, my beautiful wife is going to be there, Krista. But we've also got another KROQ alum who's going to be there, who's going to be doing the first speech, and that's Jimmy Kimmel. He's going to kick everything off, which is great, and he's going to be followed by Billy Idol, who's going to say a few words.
Look at you. You roll deep.
Yeah, and then we got the English Beat's going to be in the audience. Culture Club's coming.
Nice.
We got John Easdale from Dramarama, Will Wheaton from Star Trek Next Generation. It's going to be so much fun. Johnny Vassos from Oingo Boingo. I'm just really excited about the whole thing.
Richard Blade obviously was on KROQ for many, many years. Started in the 80s here. Since you've heard him on quite a few stations. Legendary guy. And I have to say, listen, to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame is usually a very self-serving, look at me, egotistical, ego-driven thing. But Richard did not nominate himself. A lot of these people self-nominate. Like I'm sure Seacrest probably nominated himself. Richard Blade got nominated by the fans, which makes this thing that much more special because it just shows how much people love you.
I didn't even know I'd been nominated. I was in the kitchen with my wife, and the phone rang, and it was a weird number I hadn't seen, so I answered it and put it on speaker. This was about 2 years ago. I put it on speaker, and this woman says, "Hey, Richard, are you excited?" And my wife looked at me. I thought she was going to hit me with a saucepan or something when she heard that. And I went, "Why would I be excited?" And she said, "You just got yourself a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame." I had no idea. You could have knocked me down with a feather. It was crazy.
Man, it's like, think about all the unknown numbers that you answer in your lifetime and how all of them are usually trash.
Yeah,
and now this is the best unknown number you've ever answered.
She didn't try to sell you solar? That's what happens whenever I answer an unknown number.
I would have said, call Klein and Ally. They can buy that from you.
Look, you've been a KROQ legend for so long. I know you have endless stories. We talked to you about Depeche Mode and your days with them, and that you would play these bands from England that nobody else would play on KROQ. You broke all these amazing bands. But if you could take one KROQ story and tell only that one story for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
I think the story I would tell would be my very first day on the air at KROQ when it was meant to be a 3-hour shift, but the next 2 DJs didn't show up. So I ended up working for 9 hours, and I wasn't being paid, typical KROQ. I was just filling in for the DJs. And at the last 30 minutes, this white-haired guy walked into the radio station and walked into the studio while I was reading a live commercial for the Parrot Place in Van Nuys. And I was halfway through the commercial, and he asked me where one of the DJs was. And I turned the mic off, and I said, "I can't tell you. I'm on the air. I'm reading a commercial." And I turned the mic back on, carried on reading the commercial, and he asked me again. I turned it off, and I said, "Get the F out the studio," and then finished the commercial. At the end of the shift, as I was walking out, he was sitting behind the general manager's desk, and it was the owner of the radio station, a guy called Ken Roberts. And he said, "Why did you tell me to F out of the studio?" And I said, "Because you were interrupting a commercial, which meant KROQ wouldn't get any money. I didn't know who you were, and no one's going to lose money when I'm on the radio."
Whoa.
Businessman.
And he looked at me, and he said, "Hire that kid."
Wow.
And that's how I started at KROQ.
Well, the only reason Ally and I are here, and we've been here for 2 years now, is we're waiting until you're ready to come back. That's what they told us. We're just sitting waiting for you. Richard, as you get your star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame later today, it'll be a big ceremony. You will officially be the 2,782nd star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. What would you prefer does not happen on your star? Dog goes number 2 on it, or person throws up on it? Which one? It's going to happen. You're in Hollywood. You know. Which one would you rather does not happen on your star?
Well, being a dog lover, I wouldn't mind that because I would always have a doggy bag with me. I would pick it up. If the person threw up, I'd be like, "Okay, could you move my star over next to Bob Odenkirk's, please?" Yeah,
that's a good place to be. The great Richard Blade, we're going to let you do what you do best. We got a Chili Pepper song to play right now, and since you are the master at this, why don't you talk us into it, and everyone will understand why you're getting a star. Richard Blade on KROQ now, getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame later this morning. Congratulations. 20 seconds, Richard. Go ahead.
On the world-famous KROQ, here's a great band with their roots in Southern California, and still they can sell out anywhere. You see them at Coachella, and 70,000 people go nuts. There is no substitute for the Red Hot Chili Peppers on the world-famous KROQ.
That's a professional right
Beautiful.
there.
Gives me chills.
The great Richard Blade. Congratulations, buddy. Good talking to you.
Can't stop addicted to the shindig.
KCBS FM at HD Los Angeles.
Broadcasting live from the corner of Hollywood and Vine, where I'm getting a star on the Walk of Fame and telling everyone who will listen to me that Post Malone is no Dave Gahan.
Hi, this is Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode.
This is 93.1 Blade FM.
You're listening to 93.1 Blade FM.
I totally took the wrong meds today.
Don't get used to it. Today on 93.1
Blade FM.
This is Robert from The Cure. You listen to Richard Blade. Hi, this is David Gahan from Depeche Mode, and you're listening to Richard Blade.
This is Annie Lennox of Eurythmics.
And this is David Allen Stewart, and you're tuned to
Richard Blade.
To honor our very own,
it's Richard Blade here.
Richard Blade, star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
It's true.
Hey!
It's the day I get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Tell Richard Blade to put his shirt back on.
Don't worry, I'm actually going to be wearing a shirt for the ceremony.
Hey, Richard Blade.
And that should say it all.
Go deep into the 80s, players.
This is 93.1 Blade FM. It's Richard Blade here, and I just found out Jimmy Kimmel is going to be speaking at my ceremony today when I get my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The big question is, was Joey Lawrence not available? Hey, it's AI Richard Blade on the Flashback Lunch. The real Richard Blade is receiving a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame right now and can't be bothered with the likes of Jack FM. I'm Richard Blade with the Flashback Lunch. And was there a cocaine bear in the Care Bears, or am I just remembering that wrong? Hey, it's Richard Blade on the Flashback Lunch. And yes, today I get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But also, I finally reveal that I've been faking this accent since 1983. Well, that's it for the Flashback Lunch with me, Richard Blade. So you better brace yourself for a bunch of depressing 90s music coming up next on Jack FM.
When you use bounce dryers,
Richard Blade's Famous 50 on First Wave.
Great track there from Camouflage as we move back to the seas and Love is a Shield. And before Camouflage, we had Buzzcocks and Ever Fallen in Love. And that was a band that really just pushed punk towards new wave because they weren't in-your-face punk. They had that edge that almost embraced songs like Careless Memories or Chant Number 1. They've got that pounding beat that makes you want to dance, and Ever Fallen in Love really encapsulates that feeling. And as for Camouflage, great band out of Germany, and so is our next group. And for Blade's Famous 50, I knew nothing about this band when they came on the scene, and really they had no major impact in either the UK or North America.
But when I picked up this single as an import, I loved it and would play it non-stop because I thought it was great. The band were from Hanover, Germany, and I don't think they're around anymore. I never had the chance to interview them, but the song has so much atmosphere to it, and I'm all about production and atmosphere. I love the feel of a record. So let's listen to it together on Blade's Famous 50. This is C'est tout, j'avoue, and Situations.
Richard Blade gets his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and looks back at the songs that paved the way. Richard Blade's Famous 50 on First Wave.
You knew in Blade's Famous 50 there had to be a song from David Bowie because so many of the artists and groups that I've worked with over the years say that everything began with Bowie, that he was the greatest icon. And originally I was going to choose Life on Mars for the Famous 50, but then all my friends and the wifey put the pressure on and said, Richard, you're going to be doing the Famous 50 because you're getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It has to be Starman. So there you go. We picked that one because the friend said pick Starman. But listening to it back, what a great track. Now we're in the D's. And I've got two bands in the D's that a lot of regular listeners know I absolutely love and have a very special relationship with. Depeche Mode and Duran. And they are both coming up. Let's start with Depeche Mode. But what song could I choose from Demode? I mean, they have so many. Do I pick Enjoy the Silence? Do I put World in My Eyes? Just Can't Get Enough? Get the balance right, but not tonight. I mean, the list is endless. But I've gone back to their early period for the song that I've chosen and want to share with you. And I picked it because of Martin Gore's brilliant lyrics. It's about losing love. And we've all gone through breakups and we've all suffered from broken hearts. But Martin Gore equates cancer and a breakup in a song and does it in an incredible fashion. If only I could stop this from spreading like a cancer. Wow! Those lyrics just hit home and hit so hard in Leaving Silence. That's a group I just had to include in Blade's Famous 50. Because I always loved that song and got so much response from it from the audience in Southern California when I would play it on the radio that in the 1990s, when I released a series of CDs called Richard Blade's Flashback Favorites, on the very first release, the opening track, track number 1, came from that band. It was Freur and Doot Doot. I never got to meet any of the guys from Freur, and they're still around today. They formed an EDM group called Underworld, but that track, Doot Doot, still stands the test of time. And before that, we had two bands from Liverpool, England. We had A Flock of Seagulls with Nightmares, and of course, Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Unavoidable anytime you're looking back at the 1980s. But instead of playing Two Tribes or Relax, I wanted to play the title track to their debut album. And their debut album, which actually was a double album, I thought was great. The follow-up, Liverpool, was just abysmal. But that first album was fabulous. And the production on it, again, the credit goes to super producer Trevor Horn, was fabulous. And that track, Welcome to the Pleasure Dome, always does it for me. I'm Richard Blade, and let's continue with the Famous 50 and give you Gang of Four. I Love a Man in a Uniform.
The classic alternative and new wave songs that have meant the most to him. Richard Blade's Famous 50 on First Wave.
Two tracks back to back from two bands with quite the connection, and I chose them for Blade's Famous 50, not necessarily because they are the best representation of those groups. I mean, if I was going to choose something from the Human League that was going to represent them 100%, I would have chosen Don't You Want Me. But I chose The Lebanon because I like the political feel of it. Phil Oakey and Joe Callis, who wrote it with him, they were trying to make a statement on the Lebanese civil war and what they'd seen on television. And I think the darkness comes through very, very well in that particular song, simply called The Lebanon. And before that, the other half of Human League, Heaven 17, because in the early days, Heaven 17 and the Human League were together as one band, simply known as the Human League. But in 1980, they split up and went their separate ways, with Glenn Gregory being brought in as the singer of Heaven 17 and Phil Oakey taking charge of what remained of the Human League. And Heaven 17 made great music, of course. Let Me Go and We Don't Need This Fascist Groove Thing are unmistakable Heaven 17 songs, but I chose the title of their debut album because I've always liked the beat and the rhythm of it and the thought that you can go from the pavement to the penthouse. But there's always plenty of room in the penthouse. Let other people come up there with you as well. Let's open it to everyone, shall we? And that's why I chose that one for the famous 50. And now we keep going with another one of my favorite artists to hang out with. This is such a nice guy, and what a talent he is. He can play anything. Could you play me some Handel's Water music? He will play it for you. Could you play me some Elton John? He'll play it for you. Howard, what else do you want to play? I'm talking, of course, about Howard Jones, a guy who's going to be touring in August along with Haircut 100 and ABC. And the song that I've chosen from Howard is another one that always makes me smile because he has such a great relationship with his family. He had to explain to his mother about this song that it wasn't really about her. And that's Look, Mama. That one actually is my all-time favorite song from the Jam. And last summer, when Gary Delabate asked me to appear on his Hollywood and Vinyl show on Howard 101, I chose that song to play because I love it so much. That's Entertainment from the Jam. And before that, In Excess. Oh, that was a hard one because I just adore In Excess. And I kept going back to Don't Change, Don't Change, Don't Change. But then I changed my mind and chose Beautiful Girl because Michael's voice on that is so good. And you can feel the longing in his words as he sings for that beautiful girl. And I think for any ladies listening to that song, you just think about the charisma that Michael Hutchence has and how he is so sadly missed to this day. I'm Richard Blade. It's the famous 50 on the day I get my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And as we are in the letter J, we cannot ignore the roots of New Order. And those roots are Joy Division. And with Joy Division, one thing will tear us apart, and that's always love.
95.5 KLOS and KLOS HD1 Los Angeles.
Streaming online at 955KLOS.com.
This is Southern California's rock station. And this is Kevin and Sluggo on 95.5 KLOS.
95.5 KLOS, Southern California's rock station. Kevin and Sluggo in the afternoon.
Didn't I just see you like a couple hours ago?
I did, yeah.
Standing around on Vine. What were you doing down there in Hollywood?
I was at Richard Blade's Star on the Walk of Fame.
That was crazy, wasn't it?
That was great.
Billy Idol, Jimmy Jam, Jimmy Kimmel got up and announced the whole damn thing. It was very funny, and it was mocking Hollywood. It was shocking that he would do that.
It was great.
How dirty the streets were where Richard's new star is, right in front of Avalon.
Right in front of Avalon.
That was great. That was a really good time.
Yeah, it was
done.
fun.
Yeah.
And well deserved.
Yep.
Give me 5. You bastards keep guessing it too quickly.
It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the Hollywood Chambers Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony for Richard Blade. Well, first of all, it's great to be perpendicular to all of you. This is the heart of show business, and we can't figure out that the microphone should be faced at the audience. I want to give a little attention to the luminaries who are in the crowd right now. Kevin from Kevin and Bean is here. Now on KLOS, we got Wayne Jobson here. We got Swedish Eagle here. We got Doug the Slug. Sluggo is here. Believe it or not, Richard Blade is not his real name, not his given name, or anyone's real name. It is his radio name. He was born Richard Shepard, and his original DJ name was the Young Dick Shepard, which he changed for obvious reasons. But he changed it to Disco Dick, which is, I think you will agree, was much, much worse. A terrible, terrible name. Disco Dick is a condition you get from doing drugs off a urinal at Studio 54. Richard finally settled on the name we all know now in 1982. He was live on the air. He saw a newspaper ad for the movie Blade Runner, and from that point on, he was Richard Blade Runner, which he shortened just to Blade. And, you know, a lot of movies came out in 1982. I looked it up. You could easily have been Richard Tootsie or even The World According to Dick Garp. I met Richard in 1994. We were both working in radio when that was still a thing. I was the sports guy for Kevin and Bean, the Kevin and Bean show on the world-famous KROQ. Richard, even though he was a legend and I was a punk who came in from Tucson wearing shorts to work, welcomed me very warmly. I could tell right away he was the rarest thing possible in the radio business, a very nice person. Everyone knows it. Everyone loves Richard Blade. I've never heard anyone say anything negative about you, not even once, and I think that is maybe the most important thing of all. We all know about his career. Richard's given big boosts to musicians like Duran, The Police, Culture Club, Billy Idol. A lot of shitty ones, too. Not all good. We still don't forgive you for Animotion. Who would have guessed that would have hit a nerve, huh? I just want to say congratulations, Richard. It could not have happened to a nicer guy, and I am proud to lay on the ground alongside you on this very filthy Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Love you, Jimmy. Love you, man. Thank you so much. And here are the wonderful guests who are here. First of all, from KROQ, and KROQ really has, the best names for its DJs. So here from KROQ are Swedish Eagle. Native Wayne. Katie Manor. And let's see, is Doug the Slug here? Yes, Doug the Slug. I was going to say your name whether you were here or not, because Doug, come on, Doug the Slug. And has already been introduced, Kevin Ryder from the Kevin and Bean Show.
I'm going to take you back to the 80s for a second. Back then, we had these, a cassette tape. How many already had them? We used to pop these into a radio in a boombox, and we would set the dial to 106.7 KROQ, a little radio station in Pasadena, and a real cool DJ would come on and with a really cool British accent, and he would say, Richard Blade here, coming up next, Depeche Mode, Morrissey, New Order, Susie and the Banshees, Culture Club, Dramarama, English Beat, and all the rest, and The Cure. And what you do is you'd put this cassette and you would set the record button, and right when the song came on, you would hit the record, and then at the end, when the tape was all filled up, you had the coolest mixtape made by none other than Richard Blade.
Well, so I'm so glad to be here today to honor Richard, and he super deserves this. He's been part of LA for a long time. It's fantastic for us back in the 80s to have someone like Richard on KROQ, super, supporting the new music that was coming out of England and America, because we were getting a lot of blowback from the people from the 60s and 70s who just didn't want to believe there was anything good about the 80s. So you needed mates, you really did, and I know a load of groups would be here. A lot of the bands are here, Culture Club's here today. I know Depeche Mode would be here, Duran, The Police. We all owe a debt to Richard because he was there. I mean, I did in-stores with him where the fans were going crazy, so we share some of the craziness of the 80s as well. Because it was a fantastically crazy time, yeah! Richard also introduced me when we did the tour with the Cult at the Forum, when I first played the Forum here, and Richard introduced us in '87. So we just, one way or another, we really did a lot together. And as I say, it was just fantastic to have a mate like this, a guy from Britain, to sort of living the American dream and having success here. That meant a hell of a lot to all of us.
We redeclare today, Richard Blade Day in Hollywood!
Thank you.
Take it away.
Thank you so much. Basically, thank you to everyone down here for coming. It has meant so much to me. The KROQ crew, incredible. And to see the A-team of KROQ here, and so many people that are special. And by the way, Shadow Stevens, who is here, he was at KROQ when it was an AM station. And he helped lay the groundwork for what followed, and then, of course, disappeared. He didn't become the most popular radio personality in America and the center square of Hollywood. Oh, it was you, yeah. An incredible talent. So, Shadow, thank you for being here. But all of our celebrities, we really appreciate. Jimmy Kimmel, amazing. I was wondering what happened to Jimmy, the sports guy. I'm glad he's still working. And I also want to mention Rick Carroll and Larry Groves. Those two people are no longer with us. They came up with the idea for alternative radio in Los Angeles. No one else was doing it anywhere in America, but they came up with the idea for KROQ. And without them, we might not have heard from The Cure or Soft Cell or Depeche Mode or that band from Birmingham, either the English Beat or Duran, one of those two. But either way, we thank the memory of Larry and Rick because they did so much for us. And to the KROQ DJs who are no longer with us, to Dusty Street, to Scott Mason, to Ramondo, one half of Ramondo and the Blade, to Rockin' Fig, who did the surf reports. Love every single one of you, and I wouldn't be here without all of your talent and everything you did for me. But my journey, how I got here today, was an Uber. No, my journey was, it started on a cold, wet night in England. The rain was banging against the windows, and I thought, I got to get out of this place. I got to go somewhere where it's sunny, where there's palm trees, where there's friendly people, where they make endless superhero remakes. And so I figured Hollywood had to be the place to be. But I was 10 years old when I figured that, and I was way too young, so I had to wait. And then I ended up at Oxford University, and I became the college DJ there. And at the end of the 4 years, I left with 2 degrees and 700 records. And it was like a sliding doors moment. Do I use the degrees or do I use the records? And as I was thinking this, I got a phone call, and it was an agent. And he said, would you like to go to Europe and tour in the clubs? I was 22 years old. I could go to the hottest clubs across Europe, go to Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Austria, Switzerland, Germany, and Spain, and play music for all the girls there. So I said, let me think about it, yes. And so for the next 2 years, I toured Europe. But I remembered one time that 10-year-old me had said, you got to go to America. So I thought I would not let that kid down inside me. So I booked a ticket to America. I knew nothing about the States. I knew no one in America, never been there. And so I went to the local library. By the way, if anyone out there's under 35, ask your parents what a library is, okay? So I went to the library and I looked up places to stay in Hollywood and came across the Studio Apartments, which is on North Whitby, 4 blocks from here. And I thought, that'll be great, Studio Apartments. That's going to be where I can get up in the morning and have breakfast with Steve McQueen and then dinner with Jack Nicholson. I'll open the door for Robert Redford. It's going to be fantastic. So I booked 3 weeks there. When I arrived, I was shocked to see a sign on the door that said hourly rates available. And most of the people staying there were young ladies with skirts up around their navels, and they kept walking in with different guys. And I thought, well, at least they're friendly. That's one thing. So I had 3 weeks to try and find a job. And I walked up and down Hollywood Boulevard, going to all the radio stations. And while I walked, I looked at the stars there, and I could see Marilyn Monroe and John Wayne and Bing Crosby and Kirk Douglas. And I thought, God, that's amazing. You have to be a legend to get here. I never thought this would happen to me. But I went to all the radio stations, and I said, look, I've been DJing for a long time. Love to work for you. I'll do shifts for free so I can audition. No. No response. Doors in my face. So I had to get a job. And I went to San Pedro to a place called the Plank House and started DJing. Disco Dick reappeared. And I met this gorgeous girl by the name of Katie Manor. And
We were together for close to 3 years, and we had a fantastic time. And during that time, we started a mobile disco company. And after a few weeks, we started to get a good reputation and then got some big bookings. Barbra Streisand, Mac Davis, Larry Hagman, Zsa Zsa Gabor, Regis Philbin, a guy by the name of Elton John, and then Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson got me on the front page of the Los Angeles Times. We're now 3 years into my stay in America. And so I figured with all these press cuttings and all the history and all the practice I'd done for radio, maybe I should make a new tape. So I made a new tape, took the press cuttings, went to all the radio stations, same thing. Polite, no, 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 no. Until I went to KMET. Went to the Mighty Met. Yeah, Mighty Met. I sat down opposite the female program director, gave her my resume, gave her the tape, and she pushed it back at me and laughed and said, "You'll never work in this town with that accent." I went out to Metro Media Square. I looked up at the tower that said KMET, and I swore, actually I did swear, really, but I swore to myself that one day she would be sorry for not giving me a chance. And I kept practicing. 4 months later, KWest did a contest for the best unknown DJ. And I won and got an hour on the air with the late, great J.J. Jackson, who went on to MTV. He was wonderful. And I sent that tape of my 1 hour on the air to all these little stations across California. 4 days later, the phone rings. Katie was there. Bakersfield. Magic 98. We want to hire you. And I found myself sentenced to 1 year in Bakersfield. But I worked, and Katie and I, she came with me, we learned everything about radio. We learned how to do sales calls, how to edit, how to work on the transmitter. Scott Mason would have killed me at the time, but we did everything. It was fantastic. And then after I left Bakersfield, went to San Luis Obispo, Long Beach, to KNAC, which is a great station. And while I was there, I got the phone call I'd been waiting for. Rick Carroll. He said, "Would you come by KROQ? I need to talk to you." And I said, "Okay." And I was like, great. So I met with Rick, and he said, "All of our DJs are going to Hawaii for 2 weeks." He said, "This station has no money. It's a sponsored trip. The DJs had to sell 20 tickets each to listeners, and then they could go for free. But while they're gone, we need someone to fill in." He said, "We've got some local celebrities. We have the lead singer of Oingo Boingo is going to be doing a shift, Danny Elfman." And he went as Moscow Eddie on the air. And then Elvira, the Mistress of the Dark, she was on. And he said, "But we got one open slot, and that's from 9 to noon. Would you do it?" And I said, "Yeah, 2 weeks on KROQ, I'll do it." And he goes, "There's a catch." I said, "Okay, hit me with a catch." He goes, "We can't pay you." And I said, "Well, don't worry about that. That's not important. You know, I'm working at KNEC." And he said, "Well, about that." He said, "I can't have you on the air at KROQ if you're working at KNEC. You have to quit." And I said, "Oh." And he goes, "And when the jocks come back, they've all got their shifts, so you won't have a position." And I said to Rick, "Are you going to Hawaii too?" And he said, "No, I'm staying here." And I said, "Okay, you'll hear me on the air." And he goes, "That's not going to work." And I said, "It will. I'll take it." So I took the risk, and at the end of my first shift, they hired me for KROQ. And suddenly, it was like the locomotive took off and just went, because 4 months later, I was on the air, and Raimondo and the Blade was born, the morning show. And then 3 months after that, I met this guy, Peter Facer, and he was doing a music show called MV3, and I got to host that, and that morphed into Video One, and then Video Beat, and America's Top 10, and the Rock and Roll Evening News, and it's been nonstop. But the one thing that it all had in common was the music, because I'm a fanboy. You know, people think, "Oh, you're a knowledgeable DJ." No, I only know about the groups because I love the groups. I love Depeche Mode. I love The Cure. I love the Smiths. I tried to get Morrissey here today. Alan White, Morrissey's longtime guitarist, is right over there. And I was just privileged to play that music. And that's, I think, what was the force driving me, because you like listening to it, I love playing it. And so it was the music that got me here. These guys, down front who make the music. I couldn't have done it without them. And so I feel a little imposter syndrome right now, that I shouldn't be here, that I don't deserve it. But, no, well, thank you. But that's exactly what the 10-year-old boy inside me said. He said, no, just shut up, take the star, because maybe one day you'll run into that female program director from KMET, and you can say to her, now what was it you told me about the fact I would never work in this town again? So, yeah, but I am absolutely thrilled to be here on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And when Anna, and thank you, Anna, and the Chamber of Commerce, they've worked so hard on this. When Anna said, where do you want to be? I said, I want to be on Vine Street, as close to the Palace as possible. And I know it's called the Avalon. It'll always be the Palace to me. Every Friday for 10 years, Richard Blade's Flashback Fridays at the Palace. It was great. And the underwear contest. Can't forget that. But, so, and the other thing was, I'm across from Capitol Records, and two of my all-time favorite bands have stars there. A group called Duran, and a group from Liverpool called The Beatles, who still I love every moment of. And thank you so much for listening all these years. You stopped me from getting a real job. I love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, we are honored to welcome the newest Walk of Famer, Richard Blade!
Right in the middle, guys. Straight ahead. Love you, Richard.
Look a little to your left, please, gentlemen. Over to your left.
Guys on the right. Straight ahead, please. Guys down below here. Richard, Kevin.
What's his
One, two, three. All right, so now to me. Thank you, guys. Thank you.